For those of you I don't know, I'm Michelle Markham, and I'm board president for Académie Lafayette. And this is Mr. Bang, superintendent of Académie Lafayette. And our intent today is to really walk you through everything you see up there to kind of help inform and understand and educate on the bond and the vote coming up, and to answer any and all questions that you have related to the bond. So, what is a GO bond? And if you're not really sure what it is, it's a bond that allows a government entity, like a school district, to borrow money for public projects, such as school renovations, which we're going to talk about, and then repay it using property tax revenue. I think this is really interesting and nice to see comparatively, because even though this is a new thing that taxpayers are being asked to fund, all of us as parents in the school, it's reasonable in cost, and it's a common tactic. And this shows a lot of those in districts all around Kansas City, and you can kind of see KC, if that passes, where we are in terms of comparison to the other districts. And I know Park Hill, and I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about this, but here's an example.
Just an example of district, what they use the bond for. Mainly is facility renovation and making sure that they have the equipment they need here. The different classrooms, the play field improvement. That's what generally they do, because it's had that fund heavy cost improvement in buildings.
And I think this is interesting because a lot of times you'll see people moving out of Kansas City and moving out to some of these suburban districts, and it's something that's very common. That's why they have so many new facilities. And what I think is especially interesting about Park Hill is they just had that approved in 2022, and they're going to have another on their ballot for 2025. And it's how their funding and renovation and construction improvements occur. It's very common. It just hasn't been in Kansas City, Missouri. So how this works, this shows the total bond amount. This shows how much is for Kansas City, and it shows how much Académie Lafayette receives. But I think what's really important, and we'll get into some of those details, what's important is how important this vote is, because it's not a simple majority rule vote. A GO bond requires 4/7 because it involves long-term debt finance by taxpayer dollars, and it's through those property tax increases. So the higher approval threshold is there, and it's designed to ensure that significant borrowing decisions really have that broad public support, rather than just being decided by a narrow majority. What I like about this is this unified vision. KCPS, as a traditional public school, has the legal ability to issue GO bonds and to levy local property taxes. And again, it's through a vote. But charter schools, at least in Missouri, I don't know if charter schools can do this in other states, but in Missouri they don't have that taxing authority. So this is a KCPS bond, but it works for students across the city. And it works because of the collaboration between KCPS and the charters.
We have been trying to develop partnerships with KCPS for the last few years to making sure that we don't see each other as rivals. So they have been, and it's a really good accomplishment to be able to work together so that the charter schools can benefit from this bond. So this is what we did. Of course, through the negotiations, it took maybe 1 year from last school year all the way to October, until we reached an agreement between the KCPS and us, a memorandum of understanding. So we did a need assessment, because at the time we already had a need assessment what we needed to fund, and it's really costly. unfortunately, with the money, if passes, we'll be able to accomplish that. So we submitted to KCBS. There's a third party who will be in charge of managing the bond, and then everybody will stand what they need, what they have, and what their improvements and projects are, and that's how it's going to be managed. And then the allocation, distribution of fund among the 9 charter schools. Charter schools met and discussed how the money will be allocated. We unanimously agree on student-based allocation. So certain amount by students, because that's what we thought was much simpler. So that's how we ended up having 13.6 million, being the biggest participants.
And I think it's interesting here because you see 9 charter schools are participating, but I think there are 20 charter schools in Kansas City. Okay, I'm getting a yes from the guy that knows. You know, with over 40 buildings, and so you may ask why only 9? Well, first, only charter schools that own their buildings are eligible for this funding, and then only schools that have project needs that align what the bond can be used for. So facilities, modernizing learning spaces, safety, security, you know, those types of things. Only those were eligible to participate. So that's why we're at 9 charter schools out of all of those in the city.
So part of what we need, as you know, that's the little history. When we decided a few years ago, say 7 years ago, 2017, to adopt our K-12 expansion, we had 3 phases. The first phase was buying another building, and then enrolling more kindergarten. We went from 120 to 220 kindergarten students, and then opened another building, and then opened the high school. The last one was about gymnasium, auditorium at Arnold. Currently, that's where we do our gymnasium. It's not high enough, and unfortunately, we have 2 schools. Unfortunately, middle and high school, it doesn't work. And then, of course, that's where we don't have a meeting space there. The cafeteria is fine, but mainly what we have an issue is a gymnasium. And as you know, our middle school won everything we have here. So I think it's important for them to have somewhere proper gymnasium to practice. That's why any other school we have very high performing schools. I think they deserve the same thing as any other schools. That's one of the issues we have at our.
Yeah. Imagine a gym with volleyball doesn't hit the ceiling.
Yeah. So it's also the assessment. We spent some money to take care of this. It's the leaks for the roof leaks here. The roof is very also leaking. We have the assessment already. Same thing for cherry roof too. Roofs that we need to completely change. Yeah. So it's part of the project we have. And of course, this building was built 100 years ago. The HVAC system we don't have it, I'll say. There's no central air conditioning. If you go look at the classroom, we have those noisy air conditioning units that have been there forever. So, and the windows also are not in good conditions. So in the summer, it has a problem of air conditioning. And also for the heating system too, very old heating system. A few years ago, the board and the parent initiated a capital campaign. That's how we were able to fund a new boiler. The boiler went out the year before, so the boiler was, and then we redid a little bit of the window, and that's where I built also this secret entrance when you come inside. We used to have people coming directly into the building and disappear anywhere. So that's why we built this one. So, and we renovated the auditorium too. costly, so that's why we think that the bond will be able to take care of these heavy ticket items. And this also has been a project for years and years and years. So if you have been here for a few years, you remember the presentation, how many years ago? Like 8 years ago, 9 years ago, about this soccer field here. We invest some money, you grow grass, it's not working, because below there is concrete. It used to be probably parking lot. That's what we have an issue. We have had many times projects of having turf there for the soccer. Same thing for Jerry, they have this concrete also. Part of the project we want to have is transform part of it into turf. So that's one of the projects we have for our two buildings. So again, these are the proposed projects. Gymnasium, we have to turn on armor. Cherry, we have to change the roofs and HVAC system for Cherry Oak. Cherry has also an HVAC system that's not centralized. You have different units, and you have to, how to say this, the monitoring is not centralized. The auditorium also has no air conditioning. So when we bought the building, we borrow money, put some air conditioning part of it, and change the HVAC system. But we don't have enough money to cover the gymnasium, no, the auditorium, and also to change the heating and cooling system. Windows, as I said here, windows, part of this year, the board approved funding to change part of the windows and change the first floor. But here, we also need to take care of windows. The blinds is an issue. And of course, I said the turf field. You see this team won three years in a row championship for basketball. So we did the same thing for soccer, we did the same thing for state championship. So I believe that it would be good investment to support our team.
How great will we be when we have the right facilities?
Yes. So this is what it looks like. This was a rendering a long time ago when we bought the building. As I told you, this was the surface of our horse plan. And I sort of want to see the passes from the two buildings and then building a gymnasium can be close to us, sorry. It's a 6-year project that we had, 6 years ago, I'd say. And this is how it looks like for the turfs. Here it's going to be synthetic turf like the other one for kids to be able to play soccer for our, in our two buildings. And of course, HVAC system, that's something we need to invest to make sure our buildings are properly ventilated, windows I told you, and of course the roofs. So this is, as I told you, this is a very old building, which has a lot of character, beautiful. You see all the detail in this auditorium. We invested a lot of money to make it beautiful and then change the seats. This curtain also, the screen was on here. It's a lot of fundraising to make sure that we have all this. The projection was here, the screen, the curtains, and all the other details. So we don't have enough money to change the balcony at the time, but we were able to have, and then to have some space here for ADA accommodation.
And so one of the things that we want to recognize is, public sentiment on the vote, and talk about ways to talk about that with your family members, with your neighbors, with each other in terms of, okay, why should we vote this? And we do recognize there have been recent, very contentious property tax increases and assessments, and so there's concern about the additional financial burden on the taxpayers. We know they average 30%, and some exceeded 100%, and so there's a lot of frustration. And we also know that around 61% of property taxes in Jackson County are allocated to public schools. And so that's great that the community does invest in education, but it also leads to voters questioning, well, they already get this much, why do they need more? So the more education that we can do about what is needed, and not just in our schools, but there are so many of these wonderful buildings all over Kansas City for all of these schools. And as Mr. Bang mentioned, you know, they're beautiful, they're historic, they've got all these great details, but they also need a lot of work. The other thing we realize is that the renewal of the public safety tax is on the same ballot. And so voters may just go, oh, vote tax, vote tax, vote tax. And so that can lead to some frustration and you know, we want to make sure that there's education out there on that. And if you're not familiar with the public safety tax, we put it up there. It's a renewal of an existing tax dedicated to the public safety initiatives, and it talks about the funds for constructing a new rehab and detention center, and also supporting the law enforcement and emergency personnel. So it's really important. It's not, we don't want to look at it as you know, either or. It's really looking at what does this do for our community, because they do work in conjunction. But education and public safety are connected, and different funding sources for different uses. It's really about the long-term impact on Kansas City and the investments that support the city's growth. And I think at that press conference that we had with KCPS, the mayor, you know, said, well, we as a community will put all this money into sports stadiums and things like that. Why can't we invest this in our schools? Also wanted to kind of acknowledge some of the pros and cons. So, you know, if the bond vote passes, you know, the pros are up there. You know, all of the better learning environments. It does increase property values across Kansas City, which is good for property owners. You know, improved facilities, and then of course the long-term savings. Fixing buildings now avoids even more costlier repairs later. It's supporting the workforce development for the future of Kansas City. Modernizing schools will help people from leaving and going to the suburbs. Energy efficient upgrades will lower utility costs. So there are a lot of long-term cost savings that come into this for the school and for the city. But the cons, it is increased property taxes, and it's a long-term financial commitment. The bond is a 20-year commitment. You know, the pros and cons if the bond vote fails. So if it doesn't get voted in, there isn't a tax increase. There's no additional debt for the community, but the school facilities across the city will continue to deteriorate. And we'll miss that opportunity for these critical improvements. And it can have a negative impact on student learning environments. I mean, Mr. Baker said so many times, you know, those window units, you know, the kids that have to sit next to those, you know, trying to listen to the teacher over here and in my ear over there. So, you know, there is an impact on that. And so it's really talking about being able to kind of put the school's operating budget toward everyday learning and culture. And I know you're going to talk about that in more detail in a little bit later. The one last thing I want to say before you do that is, you know, looking at this based on average home value and making some estimates in terms of how much it is per day or how much it is per year. You know, there is a concern about affordability, and we're not going to stand here and tell you, oh, it's only $237 a year, because it's a lot of money. But we will point out the difference in cost to our school and families with and without the bond. So I'll let you.
Yes, as you can see here, it's the cost, of course, but receiving this kind of money, I mean, $13.6 million is something that otherwise maybe we would have to raise in our community from our parents, at least it will cost, now, if you take the money and divide by our 1,400 students, we're talking about 9,500 per students. I guess it's like spreading the weight for the community to participate, because Académie Lafayette is a great school, benefits also the community. As people live of here to Kansas. They'll stay here, right actually, and revive the city. Before we created our high school, we used to have people moving out. That was the trend. So I think that for our community, this bond being an opportunity, as I said, to make sure the weight of fundraising is spread throughout the whole city community, the city, and then it makes sure that our school and our community also benefit to the city, vice versa. So as we said, Académie Lafayette has built its reputation over the years of an excellent educational institution. As you know, last school year, we ranked top 3 highest APR, and what we offer, I always say sometimes people come to me, I say, we're offering the best education that public money can buy. And I want people telling me that that's the truth. And we can talk about it. I'm telling you, where can we find, this traditional excellence from top 3. And multilingual education, if you look at our graduate profile, somebody some student goes all through the way to graduate. You look at their profile and compare to anybody in this country who can give that. So you can pay $25,000 to $40,000 a year, but this kind of education